This past week at Fantastic Fest, I was able to see the new Kevin Williamson Covid slasher film, Sick. So let's talk about it. As I just mentioned, this past week I was at Fantastic Fest. It's a genre film festival where they play a bunch of horror, action, sci-fi, foreign films. It's just a great opportunity to see films outside of the mainstream, see movies early, and get to talk about them with interesting people. And one of those films that I saw was Sick. And it was written by Kevin Williamson. If you don't know who that is, he's the writer of Scream. He also did I Know What You Did Last Summer, The Faculty, a ton of those late 90s iconic slasher films that were like my formative horror films, because those are the ones that came out when I was in high school that made me love horror films. And he's got a new one coming out in the near future, and it is a COVID slasher film. So was it good? How does that all work? Let's talk about it. So essentially, if you're unfamiliar kind of with what makes Kevin Williamson's work interesting, is that he's famous for having kind of meta commentary, meta commentary with his films that he does. So the Scream movies were commentary on the horror genre, where the characters knew horror films, they knew that they were in a horror film, and so it was just kind of very self-aware in a sense, and kind of brought a certain humor with that. And with this movie, Sick, he's essentially applying that kind of to COVID, where there's a bunch of COVID commentary. The movie takes place in April of 2020, just a couple of weeks as quarantine hit all across the United States and the world in general. So right as everyone was locking down and preparing to be locked down for a while, that's where this movie takes place. And so right out of the gate, you have characters going to the grocery store and experiencing what everyone experienced in the grocery store during March and April of 2020 with the toilet paper and everything like that, the types of conversations that people were having. And then kind of from there, the movie turns into a slasher film with these people in quarantine trying not to be killed by a person that wants to kill them. And then the movie kind of does tie back into heavily with COVID and everything that kind of goes down with it's trying to communicate. So when it comes to being a slasher, the director actually does a really good job of just having really solid chase sequences. The director was present for the screening and talked about how he really wanted to make a chase movie. So once things get going, they're at this very large kind of mansion-esque lakeside property, and the characters are being chased, trying to survive. And he does a great job of just kind of having these tense, visceral situations that don't feel exaggerated. It feels like someone gets hit, they're actually injured. The killer isn't supernatural, superpowered. If the killer gets hit, the killer gets hurt. If a person gets slashed with a knife, they start bleeding and dripping blood, and you can follow them where they're going. So it just kind of brings all the things that you want of solid, tense slasher situations. And with the way the movie's designed, you kind of stay in that chase mode, don't get killed mode for, I don't know, probably 60% of the movie, you're in that kind of state. Kind of a little bit like the movie Us during that midsection where they're at the house being chased by the killers, trying not to die. That's what kind of the midsection of this film plays like. And as a Kevin Williamson film, it can be really funny. It can have some nice jabs. And it's touching on a pretty sensitive subject. So even in the lobby, I was talking with some people that they were like, man, I thought it was fun. I really enjoyed it. I don't know. I had to kind of set aside the fact that I didn't appreciate some of the jokes because it was a little bit too close to home, a little bit too soon to be making those jokes. And then even for me, just in general, like most people, I'm just tired of COVID, all the crap we've had to deal with the last 2 years. And so it's a movie entirely reminding you of all the crap we've had to deal with the last 2 years. So some of that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I will say this about the film. My biggest frustration with it, the thing that kind of held it back for me, is that I felt it needed more COVID in the movie. I needed more intertwined in it. The way the movie's kind of designed, the first 20 minutes is very COVID heavy, with people at grocery stores, people discussing their quarantine plans. And then the last kind of 20 minutes gets very COVID-y again as it kind of ties back into the what's kind of going on, the motivation, revelations, twists, turns, all that stuff. And then there's like 40 minutes in the middle that it could just be any slasher film. There's nothing COVID-y about this middle 40 minutes. It's just people in an isolated location trying not to be killed by a killer. Just nothing. It's a movie that's built entirely on this COVID hook. That's Kevin Williamson Covid slasher. The middle section is just slasher. It's good slasher. It's well done. It's choreographed well. Does the tension right. Just enough change-ups to keep it moving. It doesn't linger on anything for too long. But it is just kind of generic slasher stuff. And also because people are in isolation, detached from other people, it's a pretty low body count. So that's a little bit disappointing. Normally like a few more for dead people. This one's a lot more chases and running than getting to see all the dead people that you like. So to me, it's a movie that I liked. It was good. It was clever enough. It was choreographed well enough. But when it came to its actual central hook, I think it needed more. I think it needed to kind of build the COVID into it. There's more commentary you could have made. There's more things that even as I was talking in the parking lot with my buddy about like, why didn't they do this? Like this thing right here is so quintessential epitome of the genre, as well as this being the epitome of COVID. These things merge really well and they didn't do it. There's a lot of things like that where you just kind of go, I don't understand why they didn't do more with the potential stuff here. And even just kind of, if you were to just, me and you were to sit down and brainstorm doing a slasher film during COVID quarantine, I feel like we could have come up with 20 more things that you could have done that would be fun and clever, and they just didn't do it. That's frustrating when you watch a movie. It's like, yeah, I dug that. That worked. But you just can so easily imagine the better version of it. So I liked what I did get, but I was disappointed by what I got at the same time. So I think I can only go like a B- on this one. If you like Kevin Williamson films, if you like slashers, and you're looking for something new and different, when this one comes out, check out the movie Sick. But be aware, if you're sensitive about COVID and you don't really want to see a movie kind of poking fun at COVID, the COVID experience and all the odd social things that happen at grocery stores and things like that, it might not be the right movie for you, because it is touching on a very sensitive, very real thing that all of us had to deal with. So that's my take on it. If you want to check out some of my other Fantastic Fest coverage, you can check out a couple videos down there and a link to all of my Fantastic Fest videos down below. I do recommend checking out some of those reviews to discover some new and different stuff. That's what the festival's all about. Hopefully I can leverage my influence to let some of you know more about some of these lesser known films that are coming out in the near future. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.